You ever think your life is stable, then suddenly it explodes like a cheap firework? That was me 2 months ago. Hi, I'm Evan, 30, and last month I finally bought my first home. Brick by brick, dollar by dollar, I earned it. No loans from mommy and daddy, no miracle inheritance. Just late nights, bad coffee, and years of saving. And now, my own parents are suing me for it. Yeah. You read that right. I should probably back up a little. I'm the oldest of 2 kids. Grew up in a small town where everybody knows your business before you do. I started working at 15, stocking shelves, cleaning fryer grease, delivering pizzas in a busted Ford. Whatever paid. At 18, I left home, full financial independence. Paid for my own classes at the local tech college. Nights were studying Linux servers, mornings were begging coffee into my system. Eventually, it paid off. I landed a cybersecurity gig at 22. No fancy titles, no free lunches, just a paycheck big enough to breathe. Over the next 8 years, I kept my expenses low. No vacations, no new cars, no late-night Amazon sprees. Just saving and grinding. Meanwhile, my younger brother Cody, 27, lived a very different life. Private school, study abroad trips, a shiny Jeep for his 16th birthday. College fully paid, some liberal arts degree he still can't explain to us. He's the creative soul of the family, the golden child. They called me independent. They called Cody gifted. Cute, right? Fast forward to last month. After years of cramming into noisy apartments and ignoring the lure of avocado toast, I closed on a modest but beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, $375,000, 20% down, clean mortgage. The first night, sitting in my empty living room with a $6 pizza and a can of Coke, I thought, finally, I made it. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. Dad, we need to talk about the house. Call me. I smiled. Maybe they wanted to visit. Bring a housewarming plant or something. Spoiler, they did not bring a plant. I called. Dad picked up on the first ring. Evan, listen, we've been talking. Your mother and I think it would be best if Cody had the house. I laughed. Legitimately thought he was joking. He wasn't. He's struggling with rent, Dad continued. City prices are brutal. You're doing great. You can get another place. He needs stability to chase his dreams. I swear I lost 5 brain cells listening to that. Mom chimed in, her voice soft but sharp. You owe it to the family, Evan. We invested so much into raising you. It's time you give back. Give back? For buying my own house with my own money? They framed it like a spiritual debt. Like buying a house was a betrayal. The conversation spiraled fast. Accusations, guilt trips, sob stories. When Dad started throwing around phrases like moral duty and selfishness, I hung up, shaking, half angry, half heartbroken. I figured, okay, they'll cool down. They'll realize how insane this is. They didn't. A week later, a guy showed up at my door with a clipboard. I was being sued. Their lawsuit? It read like satire. They were demanding $250,000 in parental compensation for raising me, transfer of the house title to Cody me, to continue paying the mortgage for 2 years. Emotional damages because I fractured the family unit. Their argument that as my creators, they had a vested interest in my assets, that Cody was economically disadvantaged and emotionally fragile, that I had reaped benefits from family support and now needed to redistribute that success. I couldn't even finish the paperwork without laughing, or crying, or both. At first, I panicked. Should I hire a lawyer? That would cost another $10,000 minimum. Money I frankly didn't have after closing costs and moving fees. Instead, I did what I do best, research. I spent every night after work digging into case law, tenants' rights, familial obligations. Spoiler again, parents don't own adult children's property just because they feel entitled to it. I gathered everything. Pay stubs, bank statements, loan agreements, proof of every sweat-drenched dollar I'd earned. Meanwhile, the family drama exploded. Mom started posting cryptic Facebook rants. Some children forget the sacrifices that made them who they are. Dad liked every post. Cody commented with sob emojis and passive-aggressive Bible verses. Cody, by the way, started bragging online about manifesting his dream home, posting pictures of random houses off Zillow, pretending they were his, talking about family support and new beginnings. If rage could be bottled, I could have powered a small city. I wish I could say the rest of the family took my side. Some did, quietly. Private DMs saying, "Stay strong," or "We always knew Cody was spoiled." Most didn't. Most stayed silent. Silence felt a lot like betrayal. Thanksgiving invitations dried up. Group chats stayed empty. Birthday cards stopped coming. I guess blood is thicker than common sense. The first court hearing got set for 2 months out. In the meantime, their lawyer, some guy who looked like he bought his law degree off Craigslist, reached out. They offered me a settlement. Give Cody the house. Keep paying the mortgage. Write a public apology for my failure to prioritize family values. I laughed so hard I pulled a muscle. Then I politely declined. Every night leading up to the court date, I felt the weight. It wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about standing up for myself. It was about choosing the life I built instead of the life they tried to guilt me into. Some nights, that choice felt easy. Other nights, I lay awake, wondering if I was about to lose everything. But deep down, I knew I didn't fight this hard just to hand my life over because they asked nicely. The morning of the hearing, I woke up feeling weirdly calm. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was acceptance. I wasn't just fighting for a house anymore. I was fighting for my dignity. I showed up early. Black slacks, clean button down, neat haircut, folder clutched in sweaty hands. Every document, every receipt, every screenshot, alphabetized and ready. When my parents arrived, it was like a scene from a sitcom written by someone on bad drugs. They rolled in with Cody and my Aunt Marlene, who hates me because I didn't invite her to my tech college graduation. All of them wearing matching t-shirts that said, "Family first, justice for Cody." I almost choked. Actual T-shirts. Coordinated. Embarrassing. I saw the judge do a visible double take as they walked in. Great start. Before we even sat down, Cody trotted over to me, arms wide, fake grin plastered on. "I forgive you, Evan," he said dramatically, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I know you're scared, but we're gonna fix this. Together." I stepped back, hands in pockets, not saying a word. He stumbled, looking confused when I didn't hug him. Aunt Marlene shot daggers at me with her eyes, muttering under her breath. The court clerk called the room to order. I sat down, spine straight, heart hammering. Game time. Their lawyer went first. Honestly, watching him flail through their argument was almost entertaining. He started with some emotional monologue about sacrifices parents make in communal family assets, threw in phrases like equitable distribution of future success and moral indebtedness. It was like listening to a Hallmark card and a bankruptcy lawyer have a baby. He waved around photo albums of me as a baby. He showed Cody's student loan statements. He presented a literal spreadsheet calculating the cost of raising me, including things like $14.99. McDonald's Happy Meal $1,004.99. Soccer cleats. I quit soccer after 2 months, $12,000. Emotional labor costs. He even pulled screenshots of text messages where I'd once written "love you guys," presented as proof that I owed them loyalty. I almost laughed right there in court. Then it was my turn. I stood up, folder in hand, voice clear. I showed my pay stubs dating back 8 years, my savings account history, mortgage approval papers, bank transfer confirmations for the down payment, a lease where I paid rent while working full-time during school, emails asking my parents for help buying textbooks, and getting told, "Focus on being independent. Cody needs the resources more." I didn't shout. I didn't rant. I let the facts do the work. The judge listened quietly, barely looking at me but scribbling notes like mad. Then she leaned back in her chair, looking at my parents' side. "Mrs. Cole," she said, "my mom, do you have anything else to add?" Mom stood up, voice trembling with righteous fury. "Judge, my son has turned his back on family values. Cody is burdened with debt. Evan can easily buy another house. This isn't about legality, it's about morality." The judge nodded slowly. "So, let me summarize." She turned to Cody. "You're asking the court to forcibly transfer ownership of a legally purchased home, fully funded by Evan, to you?" Cody nodded eagerly. "Yes, Your Honor." "And you are currently employed?" He hesitated. "I'm, building a brand." Mom piped in, "He's an influencer, a lifestyle mentor. The judge's eyebrows shot up. "Do you have verifiable income?" Cody shuffled. "It's in progress." Dad added, "Income isn't everything. Dreams matter." The judge gave a tight little smile. "I see." And then came the moment I will replay in my head forever. The judge said, loud and clear, "I've heard enough. I will issue my written decision within the week, but I will state preliminarily, this case presents no legal basis for relief. In fact, it borders on frivolous litigation." Dead silence. No sound except Cody's jaw hitting the metaphorical floor. Court adjourned. I packed my papers calmly. As I turned to leave, Aunt Marlene stood up and hissed, loud enough for everyone, "You'll regret this, Evan. You'll die alone in that stupid house." Cody started crying, full-on sniveling like a 5-year-old. Mom was dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Dad looked ready to punch a wall. I walked out without looking back. 5 days later, the judge's formal decision arrived. Case dismissed. No transfer of property, no damages, no apology letter, no mortgage payments for Cody. Official statement: no familial entitlement to legally independent property exists. It felt surreal, like I'd been underwater for months, and suddenly broke the surface. But the saga didn't end there, because hurt pride turned some people nasty. The next morning, my security cameras, which I had installed the minute I closed on the house, captured something. Footage of Cody creeping around my driveway, looking around nervously. Footage of Aunt Marlene walking up my front steps, spray paint can in hand. Luckily, my motion sensor lights scared them off. I filed a police report immediately. Meanwhile, the social media circus exploded. Mom posted another Facebook rant. Sometimes the ones you sacrifice most for are the first to betray you. Cody launched a GoFundMe titled, "Help Cody Rebuild After Family Betrayal." No joke. He posted photos of himself looking sad in a Starbucks, claimed he was homeless, and emotionally devastated. He set the goal at $100,000. It was taken down after 48 hours for misrepresentation. The family group chat imploded. My uncle, Dad's brother, called my parents out publicly. "You paid for Cody's $180,000 SART degree, but couldn't lend Evan $50 for textbooks? Now you want his house?" Grandpa chimed in too, in the most savage way possible. "You two were bad parents to Evan. He succeeded despite you." That single message got more likes than anything Cody ever posted on Instagram. So here I am, sitting in my house, mortgage fully mine, family half estranged, half silent. It's not perfect, it's messy, painful, but it's mine. And honestly, there's a weird, fierce peace in that. You'd think after a judge dismisses a lawsuit and common sense prevails, people would accept defeat gracefully. Not my family. If anything, losing in court just made them more unhinged. The week after the ruling felt like living inside a bad soap opera. First, there was the vandalism attempt. The police took my report seriously thanks to the footage. Aunt Marlene and Cody were both questioned. They played dumb, of course. "I was just visiting," Cody whined to the officer. "With a can of spray paint?" the cop asked, raising an eyebrow. Cody turned beet red. They didn't get arrested, not yet, but the investigation stayed open. I made sure every clip was saved in multiple places. External drives, cloud backups, physical copies. Trust? Dead. Paranoia? Very alive. Meanwhile, the smear campaign kicked into overdrive. Cody relaunched his GoFundMe under a new title, "Starting Over After Family Betrayal." This time he asked for $80,000. Because apparently betrayal has a discounted price now, he posted a sob story about how his cruel brother stole his rightful inheritance and left him destitute. The comments section was brutal. Not for me, for him. People started fact-checking his claims, digging through old posts, finding screenshots where he bragged about partying in Ibiza while living the artist lifestyle, funded obviously by mom and dad. The whole thing got reported again for fraud, deleted within 72 hours. Mom wasn't any better. She took to Facebook like a woman possessed. Every day, a new post. A real son honors his family. It costs nothing to be kind. Some people forget who changed their diapers. She also tried guilt-tripping extended relatives with long emotional emails about the death of family loyalty. One of my cousins finally snapped and replied, "Did you expect loyalty after you tried to legally rob your own kid?" Cold, beautiful. Things hit a boiling point one Sunday night. My phone buzzed. Blocked number. Curiosity won, I answered. It was Dad. His voice was low, strained, almost hoarse. You still have time to fix this, Evan. If you just sign the transfer papers, we can move past this. Family comes first. I sat there for a second, stunned. Then I said very calmly, family came first for me for 29 years. Now, I come first. And I hung up, blocked the number, deleted the call log. No more chances. But they weren't done trying. 2 days later, I got served again. This time, a cease and desist letter, claiming that I was defaming them by allowing false narratives to spread and inciting family division. I nearly fell out of my chair laughing. They had the audacity to accuse me of defamation. After suing me for my house, I sent their lawyer a very polite response, respectfully declined. Suggest you familiarize yourself with the concept of factual defense and the Streisand effect. Never heard from him again. At this point, I knew I had to level up my defenses. I filed for a restraining order against Aunt Marlene and Cody. Temporary at first, citing harassment, attempted vandalism, and stalking behavior. Took all my documentation to court, security footage, social media screenshots, weird drive-bys caught on camera. The judge granted it temporarily, pending a full hearing. Conditions were strict, no contact online or in person, no approaching my home or workplace, no third-party communication attempts. Violations would mean immediate arrest. Finally, for the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. Meanwhile, something unexpected started happening. The silence from the extended family broke. At first, it was a trickle, 1 or 2 cousins DMing me. Hey, just so you know, we always thought it was messed up how they treated you. Then it became a flood. Uncles, distant aunts, even people I barely knew growing up. They shared stories, how Cody always got everything, how I was the afterthought, how people saw it but didn't want to start drama. Turns out my parents' golden facade had cracks, and now everyone was seeing them. Grandpa, my dad's dad, called me personally. He's 84. Doesn't text, barely uses email, but he called. I'm proud of you, boy, he said simply. You stood your ground. They never deserved your loyalty. I almost cried. Almost. Cody, of course, continued to spiral. He posted a video on TikTok, standing in front of a Starbucks, looking devastated. Captioned, when your own brother chooses money over family, #betrayal, #sad story. It got a few pity likes, until someone found old videos of him flexing about how easy life is when your parents fund your dreams. Yeah, the internet does not forget. Comments roasted him alive. I didn't comment, didn't even watch the full video. Some things aren't worth energy anymore. Mom tried reaching out one last time. An email titled, Let's Heal. Inside, a wall of text blaming me for tearing the family apart, abandoning traditional values, and humiliating them publicly. Not one apology. Not one acknowledgement of wrongdoing. I didn't respond. I archived it, then blocked her too. By the time Thanksgiving rolled around, I spent it with friends. Friends who brought wine, played terrible board games, and didn't try to steal my house out from under me. We laughed until our faces hurt, ate way too much, watched old movies. For the first time, Thanksgiving wasn't something to survive. It was something to enjoy. The funny part? After everything, the lawsuits, the harassment, the social media drama, they still genuinely believed they were the victims. They couldn't see it, wouldn't see it, and maybe they never would. But that wasn't my problem anymore. This house, the one I fought tooth and nail for, it stands as proof that sometimes breaking away from family isn't betrayal, it's survival. After months of chaos, silence finally settled over my life like fresh snow. Not cold, not bitter, just peaceful. The restraining order hearing happened mid-December. I showed up with my folder of evidence, neatly organized, emotionally detached. Cody showed up late, dragging his feet like a scolded child. Aunt Marlene didn't even bother making eye contact with me. The judge didn't waste time. He reviewed the vandalism footage, the threatening messages, the drive-by videos caught on my home security system. Then he made it official. Permanent restraining orders. No contact, no proximity, no social media shade throwing. Any violation? Instant jail time. It felt satisfying, not like revenge, More like finally locking the front door of my life and throwing away their spare keys. Meanwhile, my world kept getting brighter. Work noticed the increased stress I'd been under. I'd been very careful not to spill personal drama at the office. But apparently, stress has a smell. Instead of punishing me, my manager pulled me aside. "You've handled everything with insane professionalism, Evan. We want to reward that. Promotion, title bump, salary bump, more control over projects." They even gave me a bonus big enough to wipe out some lingering moving expenses. That Friday night, I sat in my living room, bonus check in hand, looking around at my little home. Bare walls, thrift store couch, second-hand coffee table, and yet it felt richer than any mansion my family could have offered, because it was mine. Still, part of me felt restless, like I needed to make this place even more me. So I did something spontaneous for the first time in a while. I adopted a dog. Her name was Luna, a German Shepherd mixed with big ears and bigger attitude. Rescue Center said she was found wandering a highway, a little wary, a little wild. Seemed fitting. First few days were chaos. She barked at the washing machine. She tried to eat my laptop charger. She stole a sandwich clean off my plate and looked me dead in the eyes while chewing. But by the end of the week, she was curled up against my legs every night, snoring like a tiny chainsaw. She became my shadow, my alarm system, my therapy. Honestly, I think we rescued each other. Around that same time, my grandpa started visiting. At first, it was just Sundays for dinner. Then he asked if I wanted to learn woodworking. Said he used to build birdhouses and chairs back when his hands were steadier. I said yes, even though I knew nothing about tools beyond hammer goes bang. Every Sunday, we'd mess around in the garage, Luna supervising like a tiny foreman. We weren't building masterpieces. We were building something better, a new branch of family that wasn't rotten at the root. Meanwhile, back on the internet, my parents' pity campaigns fizzled out. Apparently, people get tired of vague, passive-aggressive posts after 6 months straight. Mom's Facebook started gathering dust. Dad's dramatic email blasts stopped getting replies. Cody's TikToks kept flopping. The world moved on. I moved on faster. Spring rolled around. Life bloomed again. I hosted my first real game night. 6 friends crammed into my little living room, pizzas balancing on knees, dogs fighting over chew toys. We played bad board games and worse video games. We talked trash. We laughed so hard someone actually cried. At one point, sitting there among people who actually liked me, not for my potential or my family loyalty, but just me, I realized something. I had built a family after all. Not the one I was born into, the one I chose. And they chose me back. One night after everyone left, I sat out back with Luna curled against my feet. The stars were insane that night. So bright they made the whole sky feel alive. I thought about everything it took to get here. The court battles, the sleepless nights, the betrayal, the absolute collapse of people I thought loved me. And you know what? I didn't feel sad, not even a little. People say blood is thicker than water. But whoever said that forgot the full quote. Blood of the covenant is thicker than water of the womb. Meaning, the bonds you choose are stronger than the ones you're born into. Took me 30 years and one court case to figure that out. Every so often, my mom would still try. Random texts, random emails. Mostly guilt bombs. Your brother is struggling. You could help. Family forgives. Think of all we did for you. I didn't reply. Didn't block her either. Silence is louder than any fight. Dad sent a letter once. Actual paper. Envelope. Handwritten. Short and angry. You were our biggest disappointment. We should have invested in Cody more. I laughed when I read it, folded it neatly, tossed it straight into the trash. Some things don't deserve wall space in your mind. Cody, no surprise, he still lived with my parents. Still posting inspirational TikToks about manifesting abundance while asking for Venmo donations to support artistic growth. The irony could have fueled a rocket to Mars. As for me, I finally furnished the guest bedroom, not for family visits, for friends crashing after long nights of laughter and pizza. Built a massive bookshelf in the living room. Badly. Grandpa had to fix half of it. We laughed till we cried. Took Luna on road trips to hiking trails and lakes in random nowhere towns. Started saving again, not because I had to, because I wanted to. Because planning your future feels a lot sweeter when no one's standing over your shoulder demanding a cut. Some nights I still get flashes. Memories of mom smiling fake at Christmas. Dad sighing disappointed over things I couldn't afford. Cody bragging while I worked double shifts. The sting is still there sometimes. But it's quieter now, like an old scar, not a wound. They wanted me to feel guilty. They wanted me to cave. They wanted me to pay for the privilege of being mistreated. Instead, I built a life they have no keys to. And that, honestly, is better than any courtroom victory. There's this idea people love to throw around. Family is forever. Maybe it's true for some. For me, it wasn't. And honestly, that's okay. It really hit me on a random Thursday. I was driving home from work. Same route as always. Same podcast playing low in the background. Then I saw it. A giant billboard. Grand opening. Cody Cole Art Collective. Where dreams take flight. There was even a photo. Cody standing proudly with a paintbrush, grinning like a golden retriever. I almost rear-ended the car in front of me. Apparently, my brother had opened a creative co-op space downtown, which according to the internet meant he rented a dingy warehouse and stuck up some fairy lights. Digging a little deeper, I found out my parents had co-signed the lease, dumped their retirement savings into it, bet the farm, literally, on Cody's dream. Even after everything, after losing the lawsuit, after getting publicly humiliated, they still believed in him. I should have felt angry. I should have felt bitter. Instead, I just didn't. It was like watching strangers make bad choices on a reality show. Sad, predictable, but not my circus anymore. That night, I sat out on the back deck with Luna curled up beside me, crickets chirping, soft breeze moving through the trees, and I thought, they'll never change. They'll always chase after Cody's potential. They'll always resent me for succeeding without their help. The only thing I had left to decide was whether I wanted to keep the door cracked open. Spoiler, I didn't. The next morning, I drafted a letter. Short, direct, no fireworks, just the truth. Dear Mom and Dad, I appreciate the sacrifices you made raising me. I appreciate the lessons you taught, even the ones you didn't mean to. But I can't have a relationship with people who see me as a resource, not a person. I can't keep bleeding so someone else can shine. I am closing this chapter. I wish you peace. Evan, I printed 2 copies. Mailed them certified, signature required. When the receipts came back signed, I felt lighter. No tears, no regrets. Just a clean break. Some people might call it cruel, cutting off your own parents. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you you can love someone and still choose yourself. You can grieve what should have been and still walk away from what is. Boundaries aren't betrayal. They're survival. Spring melted into summer. The house bloomed under my hands. Fresh paint, new garden beds, solar lights winding up the porch railings. Life wasn't flashy, wasn't viral, wasn't glamorous, but it was real, and it was mine. Cody's art collective struggled. Locals weren't interested in paying $300 a month to sip bad coffee and collaborate on vision boards. Within 4 months, they were behind on rent. Rumors flew. Some said Cody asked Mom and Dad for more money. Some said the landlord threatened eviction. Some said Cody was trying to rebrand as a wellness consultant. I didn't dig, wasn't my problem. When you leave a burning building, you don't stand around guessing what's catching fire next. You walk away. In late August, Grandpa invited me on a fishing trip. Just the 2 of us. Old rickety boat, pack of sandwiches. Warm beer, we didn't catch much. But halfway through, as we drifted in the middle of the lake, he looked at me and said, "You know, Evan, I always knew you were the strong one." I stared at him. He rarely handed out praise. Wasn't the sentimental type. "You built something real," he said. "They just built expectations." Then he took a sip of beer and changed the subject like it was nothing. But for me, it was everything. September rolled around, the 1-year anniversary of closing on my house. I threw a party, nothing fancy, just friends, neighbors, a few coworkers. We grilled burgers, played stupid lawn games. Luna wore a party hat and looked personally offended about it. Toward the end of the night, after most people had left, I stood alone in the backyard, looking at the house glowing warm against the dark sky, listening to the soft hum of laughter still floating in the air. And I realized this is what winning looks like. Not court victories, Not viral revenge posts, just peace. A quiet life built with steady hands and stubborn hope. My family, the ones who tried to tear me down, they still exist. Still breathing, still plotting, still believing they're the heroes of their own sad little story. But they don't have front row seats to my life anymore. They're not even in the stadium. I don't hate them. That's the twist. Nobody expects. Hate takes energy. They aren't worth mine. I hope they find peace. I hope Cody finds something real to stand on. I hope Mom stops chasing ghosts. But whether they do or not, doesn't matter. Because I'm free. Every brick of this house, every laugh echoing off the walls, every friend crowding around my tiny table, every muddy paw print from Luna racing through the hallway. Every piece of this life is mine, earned, protected, loved. And that, more than anything, is the best revenge. Not making them hurt, not proving them wrong, just living a life they can't touch. Funny how life moves forward when you stop looking backward. It's been almost 2 years since that whole disaster. The lawsuit, the restraining orders, the family explosions. Sometimes it feels like it happened to someone else. Sometimes the scar it left still itches. But mostly, it just feels finished. Last month, I got a letter. Real old school stuff, heavy envelope, neat handwriting. It was from Grandpa. No drama, no guilt. Just a simple note, proud of you. Never forget where you're going matters more than where you came from. And tucked inside the envelope, a deed. Turns out years ago, Grandpa bought a little piece of land just outside town. 5 acres, mostly trees. No house, no driveway. Just pure, untouched earth. He'd been sitting on it for decades. He left it to me. No expectations, no conditions, just trust. I visited it the next weekend. Luna riding shotgun, ears perked up at every squirrel. It was breathtaking. Rolling hills, wildflowers. A creek running lazy through the middle. The kind of place where you could build anything or nothing, just exist. Standing there, breathing in the pine and earth and sky, I felt something crack open inside me. For so long, I fought to protect what I had. Now, maybe, it was time to start building something new. The idea hit me slowly, like sunlight creeping through heavy curtains. A cabin, not a huge one, not a mansion, just a small, strong place. Big enough for friends, big enough for laughter, big enough for peace. But mostly, big enough for me. I started sketching on napkins, saving Pinterest boards, researching contractors, calling Grandpa every week to ask 100 dumb questions about zoning and permits and how much concrete costs. He always laughed, always answered. "You got time," he said once. "Build it right." For the first time in a long time, I wasn't rushing. I wasn't clawing my way out of something. I was building towards something. Meanwhile, life kept rolling. I got another promotion. Luna finally learned not to steal sandwiches mostly. My game nights turned into cookouts, turned into weekend trips, turned into people who felt like family. Real family. The kind you choose. The kind that chooses you right back. Mom tried contacting me one last time. A long email about forgiveness, about healing the family, about moving forward together. No apology, no responsibility, just expectations wrapped in sentimental words. I didn't reply, didn't even finish reading it. You can't build a future while dragging the past behind you like a corpse. Some things you just have to bury and leave buried. Cody? The last I heard, his art collective closed after 6 months. Defaulted on the lease. Creditors calling, parents bailing him out again. Same cycle, same lessons never learned. I didn't feel smug. I just felt distant. Like watching a storm hit a town you moved away from years ago. Grandpa passed away quietly last winter. Peaceful, no pain, no regrets. He left a note for me, handwritten and tucked inside a battered toolbox. "You're not alone. You never were. Build your life, kid. Plant your roots." I cried for a long time that night, not just for him, for everything he gave me that my parents never could. Steady love, unconditional belief, space to be my own man. This spring, I broke ground on the cabin, hired some good local builders, rolled up my sleeves on weekends to help where I could, laid the first beam myself, not perfect, not professional, but mine, every nail driven, every board measured twice and cut wrong once. Thanks. YouTube tutorials. Luna ran through the dirt piles like she owned the place. which honestly she kinda does. Some nights I drive out there after work, sit on a folding chair where the porch will be, watch the sunset bleed across the hills, think about everything it took to get here, the losses, the fights, the betrayals, the nights I thought I would never feel whole again, and the nights when peace crept back in, slow but steady. I'm not naive. Not every story gets a clean ending. There are scars you carry your whole life, people you still grieve even when you know they were bad for you. Sometimes, when the wind is just right, I still hear echoes. Family is forever. But then Luna barks at a squirrel. My friends text a group chat meme. I feel the ground solid under my boots. And I remember family is who shows up when everything falls apart, not who demands a seat at your table after they burn down your house. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not grieving either. I'm just living, building, laughing, growing. And man, it's good. One day soon, that cabin will be finished. There'll be a fire pit out back, a swing on the porch, maybe even a little workshop for Grandpa's old tools. Friends will visit, we'll drink bad coffee, play worse board games. Luna will bark at every passing leaf, and I'll sit back, smile, and know I built this life with my own two hands. No stolen houses, no stolen dreams, no debts owed, just freedom. And that's worth everything. Story 2, half of my business was taken by my ex-wife. I left her with nothing and rebuilt my life in this way. In a year, you'll be insolvent. The settlement made her giggle. I nodded and grinned. Her lawyer was phoning furiously 6 months later after that. Original article, 8:38 a.m., created a little bespoke furniture company out of sawdust and unwavering willpower. Began 12 years ago in my garage after my grandfather taught me. I was selling my works at a local market when I met Diana, 36F. She was intelligent, driven, and had experience in marketing. I believed we were meant to be together when we were married 8 years ago. The initial 5 years went well. Diana assisted me in turning my one-person business into a legitimate company website with professional branding on social media. My bespoke furniture business gained local recognition for its high-quality products. After hiring 2 artisans and opening a tiny showroom, we were at last turning a profit. Comfortable, yet not wealthy. I'm in charge of constructing and design. She was in charge of business operations. I had total faith in her. Then the changes occurred. At first, subtle. Diana began to gripe about being wasted in this little pond and working in this little showroom. She started contrasting our earnings with those of her college pals who held corporate positions. Then followed the passive-aggressive remarks about how, if she weren't trapped funding my small pastime, her marketing abilities could easily make 6 figures. In an attempt to boost our profit margins, I took on stressful client orders while working more than 60-hour weeks. Nothing was sufficient. The woman who used to like my hobby now calls it creating elegant tables and chairs. When I discovered she had been concealing funds in another account, it was the last straw. We lived in a communal property state, so it wasn't illegal. But it was obviously dubious. It was almost $17,000 when I learned about it. She didn't even deny it when I questioned her. Insurance. She made the call. What is the insurance against? Against the inevitable failure of your firm. She stated it as she gave me a gullible look. Small firms like yours don't survive that night, as everyone knows. In my workspace, I slept. She informed me she wanted a divorce 2 days later. No discussion about making things better. No recommendation for counseling. She had just told me that she had outgrown me in the industry. I was caught off guard, heartbroken. The real kicker then arrived. Her attorney said she was entitled to half of our personal assets, not just half, because she had been employed in the company for years. Half of my company. The talks for the settlement were harsh. Wesley Price, her lawyer, showed me figures that demonstrated how Diana's marketing efforts had turned my pastime into a successful business. It didn't seem to matter that I'd been making furniture for years before I met her. The judge appeared to agree with her points of contention. I felt terrible when the details of the settlement were announced. She received 50% of my furniture company, the house, and half of my personal funds. When we met to sign documents, it was the last straw. Without me, you'll be bankrupt within a year, Diana replied, grinning smugly at me. Handmade furniture is no longer in demand. In fact, her lawyer laughed. I simply nodded and grinned. Give them time to consider their options. Diana failed to remember that I understood making, whereas she understood marketing. Additionally, I know my clients as real individuals rather than just as statistical figures. Individuals who had commissioned works for births, anniversaries, and marriages. Those opposed to mass-produced trash. I took my portion of the money out of our company account the day after I signed. To make sure I was just taking what was legally mine as a 50% owner, I first spoke with my lawyer. I gave my 2 qualified tradesmen a call, Dom and the Quran. They gave them an explanation and an offer. Then, about the showroom lease, I gave our landlord a call. That night, Diana sent me a rage-filled SMS. How did the business account turn out? The inventory is where? I didn't respond. Let her ponder. I submitted LLC registration for a new company the next morning, naming it after my teacher, my granddad, move across town to a smaller location. I had applied for a small company loan, and the costs were cheaper. Use my own tools as security. The part about brilliance. On paper, our previous company was still in operation. The showroom was now deserted, but Diana still held half of it. The workers have left. The website is not active. Half of nothing was hers. In a week. Without standing orders, I individually phoned each client to inform them that my business structure had changed, but that I would still fulfill all of my promises under my new firm. Not one customer canceled. In fact, when I mentioned divorce issues in passing, the majority said they were supportive. I've been working 15-hour days, 7 days a week, for the past 6 months. Although my new workshop is smaller than our previous one, I have total control, and there are fewer overhead costs. Quinn and Dom accompanied me, prepared to temporarily take a little lesser salary, the assurance of profit sharing when we achieve stability. They have been outstanding. Price gave me a call yesterday. Diana is apparently incensed that her investment in our former company is worthless. She is threatening legal action and demanding that I restore the company's assets. My new attorney was far less expensive. Works with small companies. Explain in detail why I hadn't broken the settlement. The original company is still in operation. Half of that empty shell belongs to her. Our agreement didn't say I had to stay working for our joint firm or that I couldn't launch a new company. On the phone, Price sounded frantic. As it happens, Diana had been relying on the business's revenue. With the expectation of monthly profit distributions that were not forthcoming, she had leveraged herself with a costly apartment lease and a new automobile. The finest aspect? She has received calls from some of our former clients inquiring about furniture orders. She has no other option, so she has been sending them to me. I'm not seeking retribution. All I want to do is create beautiful things and earn money. However, I can't help but feel a certain sense of fulfillment knowing that the company she wrote off as a pastime is doing well without her. The business smells of possibilities and sawdust, and her insurance money is likely running low. A young couple who saved for a year to purchase a walnut dining table received it from me yesterday. It was all worth it when they saw their faces. Like my furniture, I'm reconstructing piece by piece. 2 months later, provide an update. Holy she, I had no idea how much my post would go viral. I appreciate all of your help and guidance. Since my last post, a lot has happened. First of all, following her lawyer's failed attempt to intimidate me, Diana continued to contact. She unexpectedly showed up to my new workshop, caught me when I was finishing up a credenza application. Fortunately, when she shocked me, I didn't ruin the coat. As usual, she was dressed in fine clothing, but the self-assured grin was vanished. Rather, she appears anxious and, to be honest, a little desperate. She began by making a casual remark on the new area before swiftly shifting the topic to the necessity of discussing the business situation. I simply continued working, as she said. Because we were such a fantastic business fit, she even suggested that we work together once again, said that she had erred in allowing her feelings to influence her business choices. It nearly made me chuckle. It had nothing to do with missing me. Her fancy watch was missing, and her sleep bag appeared to be quite worn. She changed strategies and began pointing out all the marketing errors I was making with my new company when I didn't accept her offer right away. My amateur website was created by Quinn's college-age child, who is pursuing a degree in web design. Simple yet useful. Because I only post when I have the time between really constructing furniture, My social media presence was erratic. My pricing strategy was illogical. Materials, time, and what local clients can pay are the determining factors, not the most profit. I'm necessary to you. She was adamant. With the right promotion, this establishment might be generating 3 times as much money. At last, I set down my tools and gave her a direct look. Diana, compared to when we were married, I'm bringing home more today. Expenses are significantly reduced by lesser revenue. Increased revenue. There was a strange tremor in her face. That isn't feasible. It's half as big as your showroom. A third of what we were paying was for rent. You insisted on a sophisticated lighting system and costly displays. For those who seldom ever used it, there was no cappuccino machine. Merely a workshop where customers may watch the creation of their furniture. That didn't sit well with her. Began to become louder. Said that I was restricting my potential and being narrow-minded. Dom stopped dead in his tracks when he saw Diana and came in with lunch for the staff. Although he has always been silent, he unexpectedly flashed me a glance that said, "I need help." He retreated when I gave him a small shake of my head. Something appeared to click as Diana saw the discussion. She stated bluntly, "They all came with you. Dominic and Quinn?" "Yes. What about the customers?" "The majority of them." Then she was silent and stared at the partially completed items in the workshop. Directives. Evidence was what we were working on. Without her, the company was doing well. "You have this planned?" At last she spoke. I gave a shrug. Like small enterprises, I adjusted. Shortly after, she said, "This is far from over," and departed. Diana always had to have the last say. 3 days later, Price wrote me a formal letter requesting comprehensive financial records from my new firm. He said Diana had a right to the information since it included derivative income from her ownership stake in our previous business. My lawyer wrote a lovely letter that basically said, "Nice try, but it was unsuccessful. Distinct company, legally separate, no need to divulge financial information." Diana is unaware that we had our greatest month to date last month. I've started working with a local metalworker on some mixed media sculptures that are attracting the interest of a boutique hotel developer, and word of mouth is bringing in consistent orders. Not much, but long-lasting. The type of steady, sluggish growth she always brushed off. Last week was the biggest shock. Brandon Taylor, the owner of the upscale downtown furniture store Diana constantly attempted to get our items into, called me. They sell imported Italian goods with exorbitant markups to the premium market. Diana, posing as though she was still involved with the company, had reportedly been nagging him about carrying some of her works. Curious, he searched me up and wanted to highlight some of my work after seeing through it. Commission-based, but very well publicized. I don't miss the irony. In the meantime, I've learned via common acquaintances that Diana had to accept a position in marketing at a nearby business. A respectable wage, but far less than what she had anticipated earning from her share of the company. She has been whining about how I undermined her to everybody who will listen. I'm just concerned with constructing one component at a time. The company is expanding steadily but more slowly than it could have with more aggressive marketing. Except for the small business loan, which I'm making my payments on time, I have no debt. I occasionally find myself longing the things we had together before she became fixated on money and prestige. Then I recall how quiet the factory is without continual demands to increase output or diversify sources of income. I'm giving a rocking chair to a pregnant woman next week so she may feed her child and give her a possible inheritance. Things like that are important to me. I'll provide an update if something significant occurs. But in all honesty, I'm hoping that things will simply slow down so that I can concentrate on joinery and sawdust rather than lawyers and drama. 4 months after the first post, an update. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago, and what a roller coaster it has been. I haven't blogged because I've been so damn busy, but I need to talk about some important things that happened. First, do you recall the project I discussed for the boutique hotel? Unexpectedly, it grew into something larger. The developer commissioned furnishings for their whole restaurant and lobby area after being impressed by our initial items. The biggest order I've ever dealt with in one go. In order to make the deadline, 2 additional woodworkers had to be temporarily hired. More business queries resulted from the installation's appearance in a local design magazine. Not everything worked well, but enough that I had to decide how to scale. However, this time, I prioritized workmanship and quality before income. I was issued with real legal documents around 3 months ago. Diana was suing me for intentional economic interference and fraudulent dissipation of marital business assets. In essence, she was saying that I intentionally destroyed our former firm to deprive her of value. My attorney wasn't worried. The suit was not so much hazardous as desperate. Instead of merely launching a new independent company, Diana would need to demonstrate that I took specific steps to devalue our previous one. Nevertheless, I was annoyed that handling it required time away from the workshop. Depositions were the pivotal moment. In order to make the argument that I had planned this entire time, Diana's attorney had me go over the steps involved in starting my new company. Until she made it apparent that the business meant little to her other than its financial worth, I gave an honest response and had no plans. Then, anticipating Quinn to testify that I had enticed him away, they brought him as a witness. Instead, he stated calmly, he quit because Diana treated competent artisans like laborers in a factory, discussed outsourcing manufacturing to boost margins, and explained how she attempted to impose efficiency requirements that jeopardized quality. He claimed to value the effort, which is why I followed him. It's just absurd. $85,000 for half a firm that doesn't really exist. For a business that has no assets, no staff, no inventory, and no active customers, my counter offers $2,500 fair market value. I received signed documents accepting my offer this morning. As simple as that. It's finished. I now own 100% of my original firm again, albeit I'll be continuing with my new company. The new name seems perfect. The unexpected epilogue arrived this afternoon. I was in the bank finalizing a business account adjustment when I bumped with Jeremy, Diana's elder brother. He was always kind to me, even though we were never close. After hesitating, he approached. He answered clumsily, "Heard about the lawsuit ending." Unsure of what else to say, I nodded. "Look," he said, "for what it's worth, this is not a novel pattern. Diana always thought she should get a larger share of whatever was successful when we were youngsters. We completed school tasks while receiving praise from our parents." He seemed compelled to tell me this, but I wasn't sure why. Next month, he added, she will be relocating to Chicago. I told everyone it was a great step forward when I was given a position as a marketing director. He drifted off, though. She must, however, get away from the notoriety in the area. For him, I completed. He gave a nod. "I did see your hotel exhibit, though. Fantastic work, dude." Of some ways, the little remark from her brother felt like the last punctuation of an extremely lengthy sentence. So here I am, 6 months after feeling like my life had fallen apart. Our old business never did as well as my current one. Stability and contentment. Not necessarily in terms of income. I'm now more mindful of my growth, concentrating on my priorities rather than meaningless standards. Quinn and Dom have been with me through the worst of it, and I now have 4 full-time staff. The noises of saws, sanders, and individuals who genuinely care about what they do fill the noisy workplace. I had supper with Quinn's family last week, which included his son, who created our website. I was requested for guidance on company structures and legal protection by a young man who was launching a small business creating websites for nearby businesses. Being on the other side of that conversation felt odd, but it was beneficial to share what I had discovered the hard way, Diana's. "In a year, you'll be insolvent." The prediction was completely incorrect. The company is doing well, and more significantly, so am I. Rebuilding on your own terms has a certain impact. Personally, I'm still unmarried and am working that out. However, the fragrance of the workshop is one of possibilities and sawdust. And that's more than sufficient at the moment. Story 3. For financial gain, my ex-wife made my life a living hell. "I'm worthy of whatever you own." During our divorce, she spit. I never retaliated. Simply wait for the procedure to finish. The day she believed she had won anything. She collapsed when her lawyer called with news. When she became aware of my first covert post, I should have noticed the warning flags much sooner. But when you're in love, you know how it is. Red flags are just flags. I had been married to Rachel for 11 years. We were in our mid-20s when it all came apart. Together, we created what I believed to be a stable existence. No children. Now thank God for that little act of kindness. And I really thought we were content. When I saw that Rachel had been going out with her coworkers later and later, it was my first clue that something was wrong. She is employed in marketing. She dismissed my inquiries by claiming that I wouldn't comprehend her because it was completely outside of my area of expertise, networking inside the industry. We were all about trust, so I never pushed, or so I believed. Then followed shopping sprees and credit card debts. I had no idea that weekend getaways might cost thousands of dollars. She blew out when I eventually brought it up, accusing me of managing her finances and claiming that she deserved good things because she had worked so hard. The worst part, though, was when I discovered texts on her phone 8 months earlier. Yes, I am aware that it is embarrassing to see, but when your wife hides her screen as you pass by, there is a problem. Spending behind my back wasn't the only thing that happened. For more than a year, she had been having an affair with her employer, Theo. I anticipated denial when I faced her, tears, perhaps even regret. Instead, I received icy calculation. What the heck? I hardly looked up from my phone when she said it. You haven't been exciting for years, really. She didn't return home that evening. Her lawyer sent me an email the next morning. She wanted divorce. And all you've ever worked for, she said. Despite my shock, I was able to remain composed. I didn't hurl objects, didn't yell, didn't even give her a call. The next day, I just called the divorce lawyer in private. Curtis, a former college classmate who is now among the best divorce attorneys in our community. Meeting Curtis for the first time was enlightening. He went over her first requests and remarked, "Nathan, she's going for blood. The house, your money, your vehicle, and half of your retirement, plus alimony, which would essentially force you to work to support her way of life." I recall being numb while he spoke. Is she really going to get all that? Curtis reclined in his seat. That varies, though. To what extent are you aware of your wife's financial situation? I responded, apparently not enough. Curtis then made a suggestion that would completely alter the situation. It would need me to play the long game and seem like the defeated, meek spouse she already believed me to be, but it would be a perfectly legal but very calculated strategy. She would believe she was winning, and I would appear to lay over and accept it for months. However, if it was successful, Curtis responded, "Believe me, this has worked for folks just like you in the past. Their collapse is more difficult the more greedy they are." As a result, I accepted the proposal, and now I'm sitting across from Rachel and her shark lawyer, Philip, seemingly agreeing to nearly everything they ask for. I'm worthy of whatever you own. After squandering the finest years of my life with you, she spat at me during one especially contentious mediation session. I simply glanced down and nodded. She played the role flawlessly, giving me a smug look as she walked out of the meeting, telling me all she believed she had won. For the time being, I let her believe that. She was unaware that I had been playing chess while she was playing checkers, and she would learn the full implications of that over the course of the next months. We'll provide an update 1 to 3 months after any developments occur. I appreciate all of the comments on my last post. Over the last 3 months, things have advanced, albeit more slowly than I had anticipated. Curtis cautioned me that divorce processes can take 6 to 12 months or longer, especially if they are complex. Since she believes I've given up, Rachel has become even more audacious. She's been sharing pictures of herself and Theo in my car on social media, tagging them upgrade, complete, and living my best life. She's also been sipping champagne. Alicia, her sister, even dared to make a remark. "You are deserving of this queen. She seems like the victim in this situation, given everything you've gone through. Unbelievable." She came over to the house last week to pick up a few items, which presumably meant getting rid of anything worthwhile, including my grandpa, from our joint office. My family has had this collection of old timepieces for several generations. I texted her about it, and she said, "Sorry, it must have been jumbled up with my belongings. Finders, keepers." Additionally, according to your lawyer, all assets are available for split. Grin. I tried to remain calm and phoned Curtis right away. He told me not to get involved. Keep a record of everything, but avoid confronting her. She wants just that. She's painting you as unstable because you're blowing up. However, that collection of watches is priceless. My voice trembled as I spoke. I wasn't even the recipient. One day, I was to give it to my nephew. Curtis answered, "I know it's difficult, but we must follow the plan. This will all come back to haunt her, I assure you. Then my bank called me yesterday. It seems that someone had contacted and was posing as me in an attempt to obtain details regarding my personal savings account, the one I had before to our marriage. In accordance with its security procedures, the bank declined to give any information without adequate confirmation. However, the day after discovering those texts, I changed my passwords and used them to check my account online. Everything was in one piece. When I told Curtis about this, he only grinned. She's becoming desperate. Excellent. Rachel is unaware that I have been meticulously recording every infraction, every asset that has been prematurely confiscated, and every attempted financial breach while she has been strutting around with Theo and grabbing what she can. More significantly, I have been working with a forensic accountant that Curtis suggested. In the meantime, I'm doing a fantastic job portraying the dejected ex-husband. I appear worn out and battered when her friends see me out and about. I even told Elaine, a friend of ours, that I could file for bankruptcy after the divorce is official. As anticipated, Rachel received the news in a matter of hours. She called to gloat right away. Bankruptcy. Nathan, really? I suppose you ought to have made wiser decisions in your life. She chuckled and hung up after I said something about simply trying to make ends meet. She is unaware that this bankruptcy discussion is a component of the strategy. An even more successful approach than Curtis and I had anticipated. Rachel's avarice is still impairing her judgment. Although he claims he needs at least another 2 months to finish a comprehensive examination, the accountant has already discovered some alarming tendencies. When I have more to share, I'll provide another update. 6 months later, provide an update. I apologize for the wait for the update. Over the past few months, the legal procedure has been dragging along at a glacial rate. It would, as Curtis had told me. The situation with Rachel's entitlement has become worse. She's now asking for things in the divorce that weren't even part of the original agreement. Philip, my late mother's lawyer, had the gall to say that because the jewelry was stored in our house safe, it was marital property, much like the jewelry that was expressly bequeathed to me in her will. In the most recent low blow, Rachel managed to persuade the receptionist at my company, a former college friend, to forward an email that seemed to be from me to Human Resources, requesting the documentation for adjustments to retirement contributions. Fortunately, before I processed anything, my HR director gave me a call to double-check. Curtis simply nodded and added this effort to his expanding file when I informed him about it. She's using her own rope to hang herself, he remarked. 5 years' worth of our financial records have been painstakingly examined by the forensic accountant Curtis hired. After much labor, he has discovered something unsettling. Little, regular transactions to a private account I had no knowledge of from our joint accounts. At first, these appeared to be typical costs associated with household expenditures, auto upkeep, and shopping. However, the sums of the withdrawals never matched the receipts I located. I never saw the differences on my own since they were so slight. Typically, they were from $50 to $200, but over time they accumulated to substantial sums. She attended the most recent mediation session with Theo, her former employer who is now her lover, like a muscle sitting in the waiting area. As I passed by, he even had the audacity to wink at me. I later heard him tell her, "Don't worry, sweetie, we'll finally get that vacation property we've been talking about once this is over." They are unaware that I have been recording all of these random discussions. In our state, one-party consent is legal. The arrogance in their tones when they don't realize I'm listening is something different, as Curtis verified. Howard unexpectedly phoned me after Rachel's parents were connected with her dad last week. The least you could do, Nathan, is to ease Rachel's burden after everything she has done for you over the years, helping you advance your profession. Simply give in to her demands and go with some dignity. Ha 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 ha. I almost chuckled, bolstering my career. 3 years ago, she deliberately ruined a chance for a promotion since it would have required her to move, which would have caused inconvenience for her work. However, I said nothing but muttered a vague reply. The complete divorce processes are still months away, and the hearing for temporary financial arrangements is scheduled for next month. Rachel believes she is going to have access to a sizable sum of money. She has even informed common acquaintances that she has been browsing the internet for pricey condominiums and new automobiles. A post-hearing update will be provided. Update 3. After 8 months, the 2-month-old interim hearing served only as a precursor to yesterday's official settlement conference. Rachel received less than she had hoped for during the interim hearing, but it was still plenty to support her way of life while the divorce was being processed. She had been arrogant in believing that she would receive everything from the ultimate settlement. It was different yesterday. Rachel arrived in attire appropriate for a triumphal procession. New manicure, designer clothes. I was so angry that I even wore some of my mother's jewelry. However, I maintained my poker face. Almost quivering with anticipation, Theo and her sister Alicia sat just behind her. I saw that her lawyer, Philip, was a little uneasy. He was often looking at his phone and chatting to Rachel, who kept dismissively waving him away. In hindsight, I believe he had already realized something was up, but was unable to persuade her to pay attention. Prior to the official start of the proceedings, Curtis asked Philip and the judge to meet in private. The first sign of doubt I'd noticed in months was Rachel's distrustful look at me. They went back to the meeting room 40 minutes later. Philip seemed pale. The judge had a severe look on his face. Curtis was the only one who kept his poker face. The judge cleared his throat. Prior to moving further, the court has become aware of a few issues pertaining to financial disclosures. With a false sense of confidence, Rachel smoothed her skirt and sat up straighter. The court went on to say that Mr. Bennett's attorney had provided proof that Miss S. Bennett had been hiding assets during these proceedings. Over the course of 8 months, our forensic accountant discovered the following. Rachel had been stealing from our combined funds for years, and she had around $287 in her individual account. She had concealed the statements through the little regular transfers I described earlier, and all correspondence had been sent to a friend's address. According to the law, this money ought to have been listed as one of our marital assets. However, there was more. The judge said that the court has examined information indicating that Miss S. Bennett and her employer, Mr. Theodore Wells, have engaged in dubious financial activities that may be considered misuse of expense accounts. It had taken our accountant a long time to discover this. He found a trend when looking into Rachel's finances. At their workplace, Rachel and Theo had been filing duplicate expense reports. He would expense the same client dinners that she did, and they would divide the refunds. Rachel became pale, and I saw it. Rehearsing anything that seemed to mean doing something when there was nothing else to do, she went to Philip. Bank documents, transfer statements, Rachel's own text messages to Theo about their financial arrangement, and even the taped conversations when they specifically discussed concealing assets from the divorce process were all meticulously presented by Curtis. "Your Honor," answered Curtis in a cool, collected tone, "we ask that the proposed settlement be denied and that Mrs. Bennett be held liable for perjury in her financial declarations to this court due to her willful concealing of assets and evident financial impropriety." The judge gave a solemn nod. "These are grave accusations, Miss S. Bennett, and there is a lot of evidence to back them up. Until these papers are further reviewed, I will continue this hearing, but your counsel will have a chance to react. Until these issues are resolved, no permanent settlement will be authorized. Nonetheless, the interim arrangements will continue." Conveniently, Theo had already left the conference room to take a phone call just as the evidence was being presented. Alicia's jaw hung wide as she sat still. The hearing was postponed until 6 weeks from now. I noticed Rachel phoning Theo furiously as we were leaving, but he wasn't picking up. Philip sent Curtis a fully rewritten settlement offer 3 days later. All of a sudden, Rachel was prepared to accept a far more sensible split. No alimony. She would restore all family artifacts, including my mother's jewels and my grandfather's watches, and I would retain my retirement money intact. The worst part? Based on the information that had unavoidably reached them, Rachel's business had started an internal inquiry. She and Theo were both put on administrative leave as they awaited yesterday's outcome. We eventually signed the settlement papers 8 months after the first divorce petition. Not everything was clear to me. Even yet, she kept a considerable portion of our genuinely shared assets. But I safeguarded what was most important. I put my future wages and family treasures into retirement. After signing, we walked out of the lawyer's office. For the first time in months, Rachel addressed me directly. Her voice was icy but conspicuously devoid of its typical assurance as she replied, "I hope you're happy. Everything is damaged by you." I simply stared at her for a while. "You accomplished that on your own, Rachel." The texts began to come in later that night, starting with her father. "Her life has been ruined by you. I'm hoping you're happy. Only a little petty guy would do what you did." Then, from Alicia, "She used to adore you. None of them got a response from me. Nothing else could be said." A former coworker informed me 2 weeks later that Rachel and Theo had been fired as a result of the company's inquiry. It appears that their expense account scam had existed for years prior to their romance. I'm selling the house myself. Too many memories and relocating to a new place in search of a new beginning. My transfer request was granted by the firm I work for, which has an office there. Winning doesn't always feel like what you expected. There is only the silent satisfaction of knowing that when someone attempted to ruin all I had fought for, there is no victorious music or joyful conclusion with credits rolling. I prevented them, and that's sufficient. Edit to address a few frequently asked questions. No, I'm not sorry about Rachel and Theo's professional repercussions. They are to blame for their decision. Yes, the ultimate settlement included the return of all my family's heirlooms. For those who want to know if I had always been aware of the secret funds. No, the forensic accountant found that out following months of painstaking research. Rather than fighting fire with fire, my secret was simply having the forethought to recruit the proper people. Sometimes a simple plan is the best form of retaliation. It's just staying one step ahead of others while allowing their own behavior to catch up with them.